Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Create by Madeira.ai. Today, we have the man, the visionary behind Antler.co, Magnus. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, Mustafa. Appreciate it.
So, Magnus, I believe you would be getting this a lot, but how important do you think are incubators and accelerators for the startup ecosystem, especially the ones on which on the methodology that you've built Antler?
So I think we play an incredibly important role. So literally what we are doing is just ensuring that the best potential entrepreneurs out there, literally the top talent across the globe, has the biggest opportunity they can to succeed in building their business. We of course select hundreds of founders every half a year to enter one of our programs in Asia, Australia, Europe, US, or Africa. And then we work with them on putting together very strong co-founding teams and deep diving on the business model they want to build. And then we also invest, which we think is incredibly important to come in with that first investment. And then really help them scale and get great investors on board in latter stages. And that we think is incredibly important because, this year we'll contribute to build about 120 companies across the globe, which will go on to solve real problems and create a lot of new employment opportunities. And on top of that, we are providing this support to not only people from some of the world's best schools and from some of the world's best companies, but also self-taught coders, product developers, and people are just very excited about making change happen. And the impact of that is pretty high.
So, excellent. So, do you think a universal model for equity is being implemented globally because we've seen a uniformity coming throughout? So, is that something which will build on, which will keep on increasing?
Well, so I fundamentally believe that different companies will have different valuations and will be worth different things in terms of how much you invest and what the value will be. However, there are a few fundamental truths that are incredibly important. First of all, you need a strong shareholder agreement, you need a strong subscription agreement, you need founder documentation that ensures you take into account what happens if one founder decides to do something else later. I think also in the beginning, you see less differences in valuation of companies. It's more when you really start creating momentum and see how big this can become that the valuation very much changes, which is why you see more similar type valuation set earlier on for startups, where really it's more related to how strong is the founder team and what's the potential of the business model they're building and how validated it is. Then, of course, longer term is a lot about the momentum you manage to create and how successful you are. But I think the core reason that you see more similar valuations and equity models early on is because it's so related to great teams. That's why great teams having a great business model can go out there and raise capital early on, and people who don't cannot. But if you can, then the valuations are more similar.
Okay. So how we've seen a lot of success and a lot of rise of Antler recently coming up in this very tough competitive space. So what makes your business model so attractive and so appealing in comparison to the other? What's the secret sauce?
I think the interesting thing with what we're doing, of course, there's a number of really great accelerators and venture capitalists out there, and we work with all of them. Actually, we don't really see ourselves as a competitor to anyone, but I think we are the best place and the best platform for any really, really talented individual who wants to build a great business. And this is everything from serial entrepreneurs who are now building a new business, or whether you're working in a fast-growing startup and think, hey, now it's time for me to build my own, or whether you are PhD in the university with deep know-how about specific area that you want to turn into a product. You can come into our core as an individual. Then we'll help you find co-founders, we'll help you deep dive on the business model you want to build. We have a very strong global network of advisors, about 300 people across the globe, from Harvard professors to people who worked at McKinsey to people who founded some of the world's biggest businesses like Spotify. And they will come in and support you as a founder early on to make the right decisions. And then we invest in you. So literally, our value proposition is pretty great. If you're an amazing person with the right ambition, the right drive, the right tenacity, we can be a platform that enable you to, own in 6 months, own 85 to 90% of a business worth $3-4 million. We think in that sense, it's great because there aren't that many platforms out there that offer that very, very early on. Literally, we help people build companies from scratch. So that's a major difference.
Wow. So in your experience, you've met founders from different geographies, I'm assuming at least more than 5 in all of the 4 or 5 continents, right? So
yeah.
In your experience, do you think the entrepreneurial DNA is globally the same, or it varies, or it's a uniform spectrum, or how do you put that?
Well, so there are amazing entrepreneurs coming from, any country in the globe. There's definitely the opportunity to build great businesses anywhere. Now, what I think is more interesting is that highly diverse teams perform much better than uniform teams. And you see this everywhere across the globe. You see it in Asia, you see it in the US. I think in the US, about 70% of unicorns have one founder who's either an immigrant or a second-generation immigrant.
Yeah.
You also see that teams with both men and female outperform less diverse teams. So, it's less about kind of where you come from and more about thinking through who you're building it with. And you should spend time finding a co-founder with different skill sets and different experiences from yourself. And unfortunately, too many people end up just building a company with someone who's exactly similar to themselves. And that we see is non-beneficial. You actually can increase the chance of succeeding much, much more if you put together a diverse team. And that's one of the things we focus a lot on in Antler.
Oh, wow. So just something which is very close to my heart, fintech. So, I feel like financial management is one of the primary reasons that a startup fails early on, despite having raised a seed round or a Series A round. So would you agree? And what role do you believe bookkeepers and fintech can play in helping a startup?
So, I mean, it's definitely incredibly important to wisely use your capital, right? And when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting and the underlying systems you use for that, the core thing is having clarity on your KPIs, clarity on your accounts, and ensuring that that doesn't become a hindrance to do your business. I think there are too many people out there who don't have that clarity. And if you don't have that clarity, it's going to be very hard to make the right decisions in terms of how you do the allocations going forward, because you might be looking at the wrong data or non-accurate data. That I think is number one, literally utilizing kind of clarity to make the right decisions. Then, of course, there's the basic kind of hygiene of just ensuring that you follow regulation, you file your taxes in the right way, you do your accounts in the right way. And of course, there's a number of companies who thought that things works differently from what it does, and then suddenly they end up with large tax bills. So they've been doing something which is beyond regulation and thereby die. I mean, you see that all the time. So I think it's incredibly important.
So would you like to share some success stories at Antler?
So, I mean, we have a number of great companies. We built 45 companies now, together with some amazing founders in across the globe over the last year or so. The amazing thing is, if you find the right team and you start executing with a lot of momentum, you can create a lot of impact fast. So let me mention one, like Something Gun. I think they incorporated last year in September. They continue to grow incredibly fast. I think they're up like 4x every quarter on quarter, serving Indonesia primarily, but then expanding across Southeast Asia. and they now have, tens of thousands of agents on their platform across Indonesia. They are doing hundreds of thousands of projects. They have hired more than 50 employees, and this has all happened in 9 months, right? So they're 9 months later, they're on the path to become a billion-dollar business. We have other businesses like Cove, a prop tech company, who hit $1 million run rate in about a month after we invested in them, and growing incredibly fast. This closing a very interesting round. We have deep tech companies like Cognicept, who are expanding from Asia and Singapore into the US. Literally within any industry right now, since so many technologies are developing so fast, you can create highly valuable, highly scalable companies.
Wow, that is just fabulous. So what's your selection criteria? How do you guys decide? Are there any exceptions? Just an advice to someone who's listening and wants to apply to Antler.
Yes. So first of all, everyone who's listening to this should do like Mustafa and I are doing, and build your own business. It's really an amazing journey, and you can create so much value, and you can solve real global problems. So really encourage everyone to apply. To do that, you go to antler.co and click the big red apply button, and then we'll get back to you with details. What we're looking for is really any highly driven individual. There are 3 characteristics we look for. We look for a spike, something that you are better on than most other people. This could be anything from being a great salesperson, or very deep within a specific topic, or another skill set that you're just better on than most of the world. So that's number 1, a spike. The second thing we look for is drive. So that inner engine. Are you able to move things forward? Are you one of those persons who get things done? So that's the second thing we look for. And the third thing we look for is tenacity. Do you have the stayer ability to really build a great business? No businesses are built easily. You can probably speak to that yourself, Mustafa. It requires hard work and grit. And those are, those are the 3 things we look for. And the great thing with those 3 things is you're not born with it. It's something you develop. You can develop the spike. You can develop that inner engine. Sometimes it's also, related to passion and being passionate about what you're doing. And the third thing, tenacity, that's just deciding that you're not going to fail. And it's okay to fail, but you should fail for the right reasons. And you should definitely not fail just because you gave up. So those are the 3 things we look for.
So thank you so much again, Magnus. Thank you so much for joining the show. And viewers, if you want to go to an accelerator, I would encourage you to go to www.antler.co and click on the red apply button. Good luck. Thank you, Magnus.
Excellent. Thank you.